You're sitting in the upper bowl. 18,000 seats around you, every single one of them full. You do the math. 18,000 tickets, $150 average price. That's $2.7 million. Tonight alone, 41 home games per season. That's $110 million before you've sold a single beer. Before anyone's parked their car. Sounds like the greatest business in professional sports. It is not that simple. By the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly why owning an NHL arena is one of the most complex and most brutal financial machines in the world of sports real estate. Most people picture the ice, the glass, the boards, the bowl. What they don't think about is the refrigeration network running beneath their feet, kilometers of pipes embedded in concrete, carrying glycol coolant that keeps the surface frozen continuously, whether there's a game tonight or not. Whether it's January or July, whether you're converting the rink to a concert stage and back for tomorrow's game, that system never stops. It is not a feature. It is a permanent operating obligation that begins the day your arena opens and does not end until the day they tear the building down. And that's before you've put a single seat in. The Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle cost $1.15 billion, not to build from scratch, to renovate. Engineers had to preserve the original historic roof while demolishing and rebuilding the entire arena underneath it. The UBS Arena in New York came in at $1.1 billion. Rogers Place in Edmonton, one of the most modern buildings in the NHL when it opened, cost $613 million for the full project. The cheapest modern NHL arena on that list was nearly $500 million, almost a decade ago. Construction costs since then have not gone down. What those numbers don't include: the land, the underground infrastructure, the ice plant, the high-density Wi-Fi for 18,000 simultaneous connections, the luxury suite kitchens, the broadcast compound, and the infrastructure your city government will make you fund as a condition of approval. Highway interchanges, transit upgrades, streetscape improvements, that benefit the entire neighborhood, paid for by you alone. By the time you cut the ribbon, before a single ticket is scanned, you have spent between $500 million and $1.2 billion. Now most people assume the hard part is over. You built the thing, you find investors, you get a loan, you open the doors. What they don't realize is that how you finance this building, the specific structure of the debt, will determine everything that comes after, including whether you still own the arena in 15 years. The funding structure for a modern NHL arena looks like this. You put in whatever direct equity you have, then borrow the rest. The rest is usually most of it. Short-term construction loans first. Then, once the arena is generating cash, that debt gets refinanced into long-term fixed-rate bonds, placed with pension funds and institutional investors, with repayment schedules stretching 20 to 30 years into the future. Rogers Place used a structure that became a model for the league. A community revitalization levy redirected future property tax growth from the surrounding development back into servicing arena debt. The city benefited. The ownership group got a building they could afford. No single party was crushed. But not every city participates. And when public money is absent, the entire burden lands on the ownership group and on the debt covenants attached to their loans. The Arizona Coyotes never got that far. For years, they tried to get a new arena built. Proposals, lobbying, referendums. The Tempe Arena project, a $1.7 billion development, went to a public vote in 2023. It failed. The Coyotes spent their final seasons playing in a university rink with 4,600 seats, in a league where average capacity is over 17,000. The franchise was sold and relocated to Salt Lake City for $1.2 billion. The arena was never built. The lesson is not subtle. Without the right building, properly financed, there is no NHL business. The arena is not a cost of doing business. The arena is the business. But even with the right financing, even with the building open, even with 18,000 fans in the seats, most arena owners make a mistake on the revenue side that costs them tens of millions every single season. And it starts with tickets. Tickets. 18,000 seats. 41 home games, $150 average price, $110 million per season. That's real money. But here's what that number hides. Every game night costs between $500,000 and $800,000 to operate before you've counted a single hockey expense. Security, ice technicians, medical staff, cleaning crews, concession kitchens, broadcast infrastructure, the refrigeration system that has been running for hours before puck drop and keeps running after the building empties. And then there's the problem that kills arenas quietly. The empty seat. An empty seat is not zero revenue. It's negative revenue. The fan who didn't show up didn't park, didn't buy a $17 beer, didn't buy a jersey on the way out, didn't bring a client who might have become a suite buyer next year. Ancillary spending per head runs $40 to $80 per person. The gap between a full house and 70% occupancy across 41 games isn't $10 million. It's closer to $40 million. The franchises that understand this don't maximize ticket prices. They maximize attendance. Because a full building at $110 average generates far more total revenue than a half-empty building at $160. The ticket price is not the number that matters. The number of warm bodies in the building is. But here's what almost nobody outside the sports business world understands. The fans in the general seats, all 16,000 of them, are not where the serious money is. The serious money is somewhere else entirely, and it's generated by a part of the building most people walk right past. Most people watching an NHL game assume the ownership group makes its money the same way they do, by buying a ticket and watching hockey. So they look at the general seating bowl, do the math, and think they understand the business. They are looking at the wrong part of the building, the suites, the premium tier, the 10 to 15% of the building that generates roughly half the total revenue. And hockey has something no other sport can replicate: glass suites, at ice level, separated from a 220-pound professional athlete traveling at 30 miles per hour by a single sheet of tempered glass, the closest you can be to professional sport without being on the ice. An NHL suite runs anywhere from $200,000 to over $1 million per season. These are not single-game purchases. They are multi-year contracts, 3, 5, 7, sometimes 10 years. Signed by corporations for client entertainment, executive retreats, relationship building that cannot happen in a conference room. And here is what that structure means financially. While ticket revenue fluctuates, bad season, playoff miss, waitlist shrinks, suite revenue does not. It is contracted, legally binding. That $800,000 suite check arrives whether you win the cup or finish last in your division. The suite buyer is not buying hockey. They are buying access and exclusivity. That is a corporate line item, often partially deductible, renewed by the CFO, not by how the team played in April. For the highest revenue NHL arenas, Madison Square Garden, Scotiabank Arena, the United Center, premium and hospitality revenue doesn't just supplement ticket income. It matches it entirely. And there's another revenue stream that generates tens of millions every year for doing absolutely nothing. No staff, no operations, no game required, just 2 words on the outside of your building. Most people think the name on an arena is just branding, a deal done once, forgotten about, irrelevant to the actual business. It is one of the most valuable assets in the entire operation. Every time someone says Rogers Place, Rogers Communications gets advertising exposure. Every time someone books tickets to UBS Arena, the Swiss investment bank is in the sentence. In the GPS directions, in the broadcast, in every mention, everywhere, forever. Naming rights deals require no operational effort, they generate no variable cost, and they pay every quarter, regardless of what is happening on the ice. Rogers Place's naming deal is estimated at $20 million per year. UBS Arena's deal runs 20 years. Across the NHL, naming rights typically range from $5 million to $20 million annually, depending on market size and broadcast footprint. Why do corporations pay this? Because every NHL broadcast shows the arena exterior. Every journalist types the name. Every fan searching for parking types it into Google. It is advertising that cannot be skipped, cannot be muted, and is tied to a tribal, multi-generational fan base that is genuinely difficult to reach any other way. Naming rights deals are negotiated once, renewed quietly, and generate revenue that sits entirely outside the hockey operation. You don't need your team to win. The check arrives regardless. But the naming rights check, as large as it is, only covers part of what this building needs to generate, because the math on 41 home games is not enough. And the owners who figured that out earliest are the ones running the most profitable buildings in the league. Here is a number that should make every arena owner uncomfortable. 41. That is how many home games an NHL team plays per season. The arena exists 365 days a year, which means the building sits empty. With its debt obligation running, its refrigeration system running, its insurance running for 324 nights. The arenas that fail treat those 324 nights as downtime. The arenas that win treat them as the real business. The Climate Pledge Arena was designed as a multi-use facility before the Kraken played a single game. Concerts, esports events, MMA, family shows, different audiences, different revenue streams, same building. Rogers Place triggered something rarer. By anchoring the Ice District development in Edmonton, the arena catalyzed approximately $2.5 billion in surrounding real estate. Hotels, office towers, residences, retail. The arena didn't just generate its own revenue, it generated an entire neighborhood. And the ownership group structured the deal to participate in that value. Madison Square Garden is the ultimate example. A building in Midtown Manhattan that hosts the Rangers, the Knicks, major concert tours, boxing, college basketball, and corporate events. Functionally always open, always generating. A building that has become inseparable from the identity of New York City itself, which is a form of commercial value that cannot be purchased. The arena is not a hockey building. It is a year-round economic engine. The hockey team is the reason the market cares. But the revenue machine runs 365 days a year. And that machine has costs that never stop running either. Costs that most people building these arenas dramatically underestimate until the invoices start arriving. You've seen the revenues: tickets, suites, naming rights, concerts. On paper, the numbers look strong. Now let's talk about what's leaving your account every single month. The costs that don't appear in any highlight reel and that most first-time arena owners dramatically underestimate. The refrigeration system runs 24 hours a day, consuming electricity at industrial scale. A modern NHL arena uses between 8 and 15 million kilowatt hours per year. On a single game night, ice plant, HVAC, scoreboard, concession kitchens, broadcast compound, Wi-Fi under full load, the building consumes 60,000 to 80,000 kilowatt hours in one evening. Converting from ice configuration to concert configuration and back costs tens of thousands per conversion. If you're running hockey Tuesday, concert Friday, hockey Saturday, you do this multiple times a week. Insurance on a billion-dollar public assembly building runs into the millions annually. Year-round staff, facility engineers, IT teams, commercial operations are on full-time contracts paid in July when the building is dark. Technology upgrade cycles mean a ticketing system that was modern in 2019 is already showing its age. None of these costs are dramatic on their own. Together, across 12 months, they represent a fixed operating base that your revenue must exceed before you make a single dollar of profit. But even managing costs perfectly, even filling the building every night, there is one mechanism that can bring all of it down. It's not a bad season. It's not a canceled concert. It's something most arena owners don't fully understand until they're already inside it. Everything we've discussed so far, the construction costs, the operating expenses, the revenue streams, all of it exists inside a legal framework that most arena owners don't fully understand until it's too late. It's written into the fine print of every construction loan. It's never discussed at the ribbon cutting, and it is the single mechanism that can turn a viable arena into a crisis without a single catastrophic event. Debt covenants require the ownership group to maintain specific financial health ratios. The most common, so the debt service coverage ratio, means your operating cash flows must remain at a certain multiple of your annual repayments. If revenue falls below the threshold, your lender can increase your interest rate, restrict player spending, demand additional collateral, or in extreme cases, call the outstanding balance. What triggers this in the NHL? Missing the playoffs 2 consecutive seasons, suite renewals slowing down, a lighter concert calendar than projected, a naming rights deal renewing below the previous value, None of these are disasters alone, together in the same 18-month window against a fixed debt obligation that adjusts for none of it. They create a coverage ratio problem that turns a manageable business into a permanent conversation with your lenders. The arenas that end up in distress are almost never the ones in the largest markets. They are the ones where revenue projections were built optimistically and where the covenants were written against those projections. So what does this actually look like in practice? Let's run the two real scenarios side by side. The optimistic scenario, top 5 NHL market, intelligent financing with public participation, suites fully subscribed before the building opens on 7-year contracts, 15-year naming rights deal at $15 million per year, 4 playoff appearances in 6 seasons, 55 non-hockey events annually, concerts, UFC, esports, corporate events, annual revenue between $150 million and $300 million. Debt serviceable, covenants comfortable, asset appreciating. In 25 years, you own something worth multiples of what it costs to build. The realistic scenario, mid-size market, no public contribution. Construction ran 18% over budget, 3 consecutive playoff misses, 2 major corporate suite clients didn't renew, summer concert bookings lighter than projected, refrigeration system needed a $3.5 million unplanned overhaul. Naming rights renewal came in 20% below the previous deal. None of these are catastrophic alone. Combined against a fixed debt obligation that adjusts for none of it, you are not losing money dramatically, but you are not building equity either. And every year, the gap between what you owe and what you generate narrows your options a little more. The difference between these two outcomes is not luck. It is market selection, financing structure, and the discipline to build a commercial real estate business around the hockey team, not just a building for it to play in. Which brings us to the real lesson, the one that changes how you watch every NHL game from this point forward. Owning an NHL arena is not owning a hockey building. It is owning one of the most complex pieces of commercial real estate in any North American city. A live entertainment venue, a corporate hospitality facility, a concert hall, a naming rights asset, and a real estate anchor, with a professional hockey franchise as its emotional engine. The team fills the seats 41 nights a year. It gives the building its identity. It creates the attachment that makes 18,000 people care deeply about what happens inside your walls. But the arena has to justify its existence every other night, too. The owners who understand this build something that compounds in value for decades. The ones who don't spend years managing debt on a building that sits dark more than 80% of the time, wondering why the numbers never quite work. Remember that calculation at the beginning? 18,000 seats, $150 average ticket, $2.7 million per game. That number isn't wrong. It's just the first line of a much longer and much more interesting equation. Outfox the system.